The agenda for today, I'm going to go over some slides introducing what Trinsic does, and then I'll kick it over to Michael to talk about just this concept of checking for digital IDs and what we mean by that. And then we'll spend a lot of time just more tactically on the SDKs, how they work, documentation, dashboard, and some of the acceptance methods. And then we have a lot of time for Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, again, feel free to drop them into the Q&A in the chat and know that we'll have a lot of time at the end to get through them. So, um, great. I guess we can do just a quick round of intros before I kick it off with the slides. Michael, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, as Zach said, I'm the co-founder and chief product officer of Trinsic, and basically been spending the last 7 years or so working in the digital identity community as someone figuring out how to basically help improve the experience. There's, as we all know, a lot of fraud online, as well as a lot of really annoying experiences to combat the fraud. And identity verification sits at the middle of that. And I spend all day long thinking about how to improve it. And it's a really interesting problem to try to solve. So, started out in the decentralized identity space, actually. Was part of the first open source project to do decentralized identity called the Sovereign Foundation. And then went from there to starting Trinsic to provide APIs for reusable identity credentials. And after the pandemic, the adoption of mobile driver's licenses and other ID cards led us to believe that the best kind of service that we can provide at Trinsic is to help businesses verify all of the reusable IDs that are going live around the world, as well as ensure that individuals who have that experience of verifying their digital ID can have a really, really good experience. So what I'll show you today is our best thinking on the matter, and the product that we built around that, and would just really appreciate everyone's feedback on this call today to think, how can we make identity verification better? Thanks, Zach.
Awesome. Great. So my name is Zach Jones. I'm the director of partnerships at Trinsic. So I've spent a lot of time kind of building up this identity acceptance network and talking to, customers, relying parties and businesses, but also talking to identity providers around, how we can work together. So I'm going to give a quick intro to what Trinsic does. And then, like I said, I'll kick it over to Michael for the rest of this session, which will be more of a workshop. So Trinsic helps you verify users 10 times faster by accepting digital IDs that they already have. This is kind of the driving insight of what we're doing right now. We work with a number of partners to make this happen. And from a user's point of view, they get the option to select a digital ID provider, an identity provider, and they kind of see like a wallet selection screen, or one option is they see this kind of wallet selection screen where they can select an identity provider that they're familiar with and then complete an onboarding flow with an existing ID. So there are over 2.5 billion digital IDs in the world today, a lot more than people think. So like nearly half of the adults around the world have some form of digital identity, verified digital identity, that they could use to kind of complete some steps of an onboarding flow into an application. So this is a global, a global network that we're building. And really what we see in the market is that there's a lot of fragmentation in digital identity between what's happening in the US with mobile driver's licenses, and then in the EU with EIDAS. And then there are a lot of great private networks, or like private led networks that are again global as well and concentrated in certain places. So these, if you want to adopt digital identity right now, it's a little bit challenging to know like what do you do, what do you integrate, where do you start? Um, and what this causes, our belief is that relying parties can't actually realize the value of reusable identity because of the fragmentation and complexity. You can go, implement one scheme or partner with one company, but we're tracking over 150 different schemes. So the benefits to businesses that need to verify users is that by working with Trinsic, you can do one integration and have access to many different schemes, many different digital ID schemes, and our network continues to grow over time. Digital ID adoption is only going up basically everywhere in the world. So you're kind of ahead of the curve and ready as things become widely adopted. The consumers get a choice of how they verify. They can kind of bring their own identity to an application, and the user experience is better because they don't need to go through a fresh document scan every time they want to onboard into an application. So your conversion rates will go up. We've seen this already happening in countries where digital ID is widely adopted and most adults are using it, is that fraud goes down, conversion goes up, and the user experience is generally better for everybody. um, Also, many of these digital identities are kind of cryptographically secured and don't have the same kind of fraud or attack vectors that would be present with a physical ID card scam, especially now that, AI is very sophisticated. And then over time, we believe that the cost of verification will go down as digital ID becomes widely adopted. So there are a lot of potential benefits and benefits to businesses who are adopting digital ID as a way to verify their users. Um, and right now, Trinsic primarily has coverage in North America and Europe. But we're targeting a bunch of other integrations and coverage in, globally across the world. So there's a lot of interest in Southeast Asia, in Australia, South America, Latin America, and Africa as well. So um, that's a quick intro to kind of what Trinsic does and why we do it. And for the rest of today, we'll have Michael talk through really what the product looks like, how you would integrate it, and yeah, I think that's all from my end.
I'm gonna just go through a demo first and talk to you about what we mean when we say check for digital ID. And then from there, I want to show you how you can make your own demo using Trinsic. And if what I share today seems interesting, you can schedule an activation call or just basically an onboarding call with me where I can give you access to an API token in our dashboard to get this all set up. All right, great. So the main product that we have built is a acceptance network, which weaves together various ways to verify your identity. There are two primary ways to access this network. The first way is through our pre-built workflow, which can be launched as an iframe like I have here. It can also be launched as a pop-up or a redirect flow. And the first thing that we recommend doing is checking to see if someone already has a digital ID within the Trinsic network with their phone number. And if they do, and I'll get into what I mean about like if someone actually has a digital ID in a second. If they do, though, we can check our network and see if someone has been verified in the past. Ultimately, the biggest value of this network is to connect users to verifications they've already done that match your requirements for your application. If a user is matched, in this case I am, we have them authenticate so that we can re-verify that they are who they say they are. So basically, we're tying this to strong authentication. In this case, it's a passkey. We're exploring multi-factor authentication approaches that could be pretty configurable, but because we're basically blending an authorization step into the authentication, it needs to be a strong step. I've already been verified on September 10th with our demo. And I'm using some demo data here. So all I need to do now is just confirm that the information is the same and it can be passed on to Airbnb, in this case, to prove that I actually own the address. And I have verified my address previously by doing a document scan that I then was able to save um, and credentialize certain attributes of that document scan in the Trinsic network to be reused. So if I have not been seen before, or I need to change this information, the view that you will see after verifying your phone number is this view right here. So if we've checked our network in various ways, right now we really just check and see if someone has done a document scan before with Trinsic. Then if we don't see you and you are onboarding for the first time, here's what the flow looks like. The first thing we do is we check uh, basically the area code of your phone number as well as the IP address of where you are calling in from, and give you a personalized list of IDs you might already have. And so the area code that I have for my phone is in Utah. I'm calling in today from California. And so we're showing these four kind of top ID methods that I might already have. And I can choose to go forward with one of these ID methods. If I don't have one of these ID methods, which is very often the case right now, as we get adoption, and I'm just showing you all the other lower kind of unlikely ID providers that we include here. If I don't have one of these, I'm gonna go through a standard physical document scan on my phone. So what I'll do here is I'll scan my this QR code. So normally we would do a document scan here where I would take a photo of my physical ID. We're just gonna do that anyways. And once or we're gonna do that as a demo. Once I'm verified, I now have this view to let me be remembered. And we're actually using a feature of passkeys that is very new, but rapidly gaining widespread support within the operating systems to encrypt data by storing a private key within the passkey large blob storage. I can get into some of that too if you want the technicals. But all I need to do now is actually um, register a passkey. I've already registered one, so it asked me to sign in, but I would just register it on my phone. And then I can now return to my browser on my computer. All right, so basically it just redirected me back to Airbnb, to the relying party. Basically, as you probably understand, if you are evaluating identity verification solutions or coming from the industry, there is a near infinite amount of configuration in identity verification workflows that could occur. So, like the classic business buzzword is having a like a workflow engine or like a policy builder, and we can definitely begin to explore a lot of that. I call those add-ons right now. So right now it's very basic. You type in, or you basically can use this pre-built workflow that we have. You can also call into our API. I'll show you the docs to check against our network. And then you can choose a method of, you can basically configure the method of verification you want to show here. And then you can add add-ons. The classic add-on that most people need to add for like a KYC scenario is going to be some sort of liveness check for certain workflows. And so you could add on a biometric liveness check to this as well. That's something that we have in beta that we're exploring. You could obviously also add things like authoritative data source checks. Think of this step here is an input to your identity verification workflow that includes pre-verified information with certain claims of the level of assurance based on who you are receiving the data from. If it is a document scan, there's a certain level of assurance. Whereas if you're bringing something in from a mobile driver's license, that's something else. I'm actually going to show that right now. And I'll try to go a little faster for sake of time. But here I've launched a view to scan my California DMV wallet. If it was on mobile, it would be a deep link with this button here. For web here, where it's desktop, handing off to my mobile device, it's going to be a QR code that I can now launch, unless someone beats me to it and tries to scan this, which has happened before. Thus the security issues of QR codes on screen share. But I have this little identity verification request on my mobile app, and I can now accept that request and share my information back to Airbnb just like that. We do check the information has not expired, both having a freshness check of the document scan. So like you can set like like a 90-day interval where anything fresher than 90 days you would trust. We're still exploring all of those nuances of the configuration. So we'd love to get your feedback. And then obviously we're also checking to see if the credential itself, like my driver's license, has expired. So in here you see the information that I've received, and you can see my date of birth. Someone wished me happy birthday later this year. I have my old address here. And basically, this is the information that Airbnb now has about me. You notice I said I have my old address. So there's also challenges in trusting necessarily the data in a credential is the latest. Frankly, that already is the case for most of our identity verifications. But now we can make this configurable and have some more selective disclosure as well around what we're sharing on this information. So Daniel, we do support selective disclosure. You preempted that. Well, I preempted that pretty well, I think. Based on these requests that you can configure for mobile IDs, you can configure a subset of the information you share, whereas with physical document scans, you can basically, as a user, have to just kind of submit all of your information and hope that the business uses it correctly. All right, let me now share this view. So here is our GitHub repository of our SDKs that is very recent. And here is our documentation site that if you if you're willing to have a short onboarding call with me, because I would love to meet you and get to know your use case better, I can onboard you to this. And then the main path of integration that we provide is via our SDKs. So we're about to launch a no-code solution where you can actually create a link in our dashboard. And here is the dashboard we have. So I'm gonna use Airbnb as the use case. And this dashboard here shows the verifications that have occurred. It also shows the pre-built workflow and the branding that you can configure here. We have a bunch of them here that we're about to launch, primarily within the EU, because those are the ones that are most mature. And then you can also manage members and do a lot of the kind of enterprise business stuff that you expect from a dashboard. We're quickly building out more of these. We're about to finish our SOC 2 audit to get SOC 2 Type 2 certified as well. And just in general, we're really trying to get to the point where we're enterprise ready for people. And right now we're, ready for people to integrate, deploy in pilots. And if you're interested in moving fast, we can move fast with you. Okay, so integration guide here. In general, what we have occur, we basically start by creating a session that um, uh, needs to be created on your backend because you need to enrich the request with your access token. This is basically identical to how you might integrate Stripe checkout. So if you've done that before, this is the same flow. You want to create at a high level, you're going to want to create on your front end a request to your back end to create a session that passes the request parameters from our SDK to your backend, which then calls in that which then calls our create session uh, endpoint that'll return to you a session URL that you can then launch from the client side. It'll launch the URL, which launches our pre-built workflow or one of our ID methods. Once the user completes the session, we actually have a promise that will be returned to you to then send a results. Basically, we'll return a results access key, which then you can call a get session results in a similar paradigm to our API to then return those results to your client side. So you're going to need to put a little bit of code on your client side and your server side. Basically, that's authentication. You're going to need to put it's right here. There is on your client on your server side when you're configuring the calls to us, you make a call with you make a call into our create session endpoint right here. After putting your auth token in that you've saved in hopefully a really secure secret store. On your backend, then you will also call this let's see, this is the back end. You're going to call it the get session result. On the front end, we have various client-side libraries that I'll show in a second. You will do the exchange result. Okay, so I actually have a little code spaces up and running right now where I have stored my auth token in a environment file. And by the way, all of these have samples. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let me show you finally the SDKs. We have SDKs in currently these server side. We have these backend SDKs that you can just use your tool chain and package manager to install. You can also make directly, you can just make like REST calls if you want to as well, if you're using something more unique. And then similar with our UI libraries here. And these are all open source libraries that you can reference if you need to edit something on your own. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to use the Node library with TypeScript, and then the web UI with React. Well, I think it's React. It might just be web. I am not really a developer right now, but I play one on the internet. So forgive me if I do not do things in the perfect way. So for me right now, I believe I've already built and done everything here. If it saved my state, please work code spaces. Oh boy. Oh, I need to be in the right repository. Great. So I'm going to go to the TypeScript sample here. And then I'm going to run npm start. And if you're using PHP or something else, that is not TypeScript or Node, you can run the samples in a similar way by going. We have READMEs in all of these sample directories here, and we have running samples, which I'm immensely proud of because I feel like that's really hard to find, and I'm just proud of our engineering team for having done that. So I'm going to jump into this sample that is now running. And it shows you the three ways to launch the pre-built session. And then it shows you how to embed individual methods directly into your website. So if I launch Yoti right here, it's going to show me this pop-up now where I can scan this with my Yoti app or one of your users could. So the user experience is up to you now. How do you want to present a personalized list of acceptance methods to your users? Within our API, I'll show you the reference. We have been basically playing with how to personalize the list of identity providers that show up in our pre-built session and also that get returned to you within this response so that you can construct your own customized set of acceptance methods. And basically, like I said, you can use certain signals like you could pass us the phone number and we will send back the area code, or you could get our full list and do filtering on your own. There's a bunch of ideas that we have. Love to hear your feedback here. If I can finally finish talking and we can get to Q&A. So, okay, so basically we have these methods that you can launch directly. Here's the California DMV one. You can do that just by using our SDK. And then you can also launch, let's just do the redirect flow here. You can launch the redirect flow that now goes to Trinsic. At some point, we may be able to offer you guys like custom subdomains or custom domains here and then fully white label this so that this can be kind of like a custom sort of like Auth0 esque screen that you can then use within your flow. All right, that is it. Let me see if I've missed anything. Oh yeah, we have this demo that's live. So if you want to try this out or align your internal stakeholders or anything like that, you can add anybody's email here, and you can demo verifying identity here. So this would be a white labeled demo of verifying my identity to Apple, and then I can do the whole thing again, just like I did previously. Demo.trinsic.id. We are just using this as a lead capture tool, but I think you guys can all use it internally if you want to try out Trinsic really easily. And with that, I will now transition to Q&A. I cover a lot of information really quickly. This is our first technical workshop we've done, so we'll also love to hear feedback after the webinar on that. But yeah, we can now go to Q&A.
Yeah, there's a couple. Let me answer one or two that are a little bit more partner specific, I guess, and
Yeah,
then we
that'd be
can
great.
kind of run through the list. I
I
think
could
we
use a
have.
break.
Yeah, that sounds good. You can get a sip of water or something. So, um, this question, how the integration works with government-owned applications? Is there a pre-partnership or arrangement required? How do we ensure safety of data processed, shared, and transferred? So, each of the identity providers that Trinsic integrates at some level, we have negotiated like a reseller agreement so that you can then consume the data. Now, these different schemes all work differently. Some of them are kind of by default activated and available to anybody using Trinsic. Others require permission. So within the documentation, it's denoted in the identity provider pages if you need to kind of contact Trinsic to like turn on a method. And then some of these sources are kind of private sector. Some are kind of public-private partnership, and some are fully government-driven. So when some government-driven sources have very strict rules around when data can be shared outside of the country, for example, in which case then Trinsic needs to figure out how to integrate that in such a way that it's still legally compliant. So I guess the short answer to this question is we figure all of this out so you don't have to. And when you get an identity provider is added to the Trinsic network and you have access to it, you may need to like request access. Um, but Trinsic has already figured out kind of the data processing implications and the legal implications around, provisioning access to that method to our customers. Um, from a business point of view, I think there was another question about this as well. There is, each method has a cost generally. Each method has a cost to Trinsic, and then there's kind of a price that we put on it when people utilize it. So the cost varies very widely from, could be in this 10 cents or something. It could be $2, depending on the identity provider. So with, the networks that we've integrated and participate with, they kind of set the fair price, and then Trinsic negotiates an arrangement with them um, and integrates it into the platforms you have access. So um, yeah, I hope that answers the question. Yeah, do you see any others that you want to address here, Michael?
Yeah, a couple. For Rob, he asks, can a partner client leverage multiple identity providers, and does your platform offer orchestration? Do you offer any other services to enhance your identity partner solution? And I think I mentioned this a little bit, but I might have rushed over it. We we aim to be the best business in the world at aggregating all of the ID providers, and we aim to slot as smoothly as we can into an existing identity verification workflow. And then we are kind of exploring what would be the right amount of kind of like orchestration tooling from third-party vendors to add to our own platform. So you can see here, we have added document scanning from a third-party vendor. And we have also, for a couple of clients of ours, done additional KYC checks around like adverse media and PEPs and sanctions lists, because we can just do it really easily. But also, I think it's pretty likely that we can add biometric authentication with like a liveness check. And then I also think one thing I haven't mentioned, but one thing that's really exciting is that our platform is set up to work in person as well. So you could have a representative or an attendant or even a kiosk configured with Trinsic to accept ID cards in person, as well as online for festivals, stadiums, events, even like banks, which I think is pretty novel. Most businesses seem to have siloed identity systems, and ours is now able to help solve in-person identity verification alongside online. So if you consider that kind of like orchestration or managing more than just an initial point solution, that's also in the deck of cards. Let's see.
You do the
So
next one.
different types of digital ID. Zach, did you have something you're going to
Yeah,
say?
I was actually going to say, if you have the docs pulled up in your screen share, Michael, I recently added a section about the different types of digital ID. If you see that, if you can
I
navigate,
do, yes.
there's that.
So
Um,
yeah, in the docs here, here's all of
we
the ID
just see
providers.
the agenda right
Oh,
now,
I was
actually.
paused. Now
Yeah.
I'm sharing again.
Okay, cool. Yep. Um, yeah, let me talk briefly about this. So Trinsic's a digital ID aggregation platform. There are a lot of different types of digital IDs as mentioned here. Um, ADHAR is very different from a mobile driver's license, is different from a bank ID. Intrinsic offers integrations or connections to all of these different types of IDs. And Michael can maybe talk a little bit more about this technically, but Trinsic kind of simplifies the data model that you get back from the Trinsic API. So you don't need to go and build a ton of custom logic based on all these different providers. You're able to integrate with Trinsic and get back kind of a consistent set of data, or a consistent set of verified attributes, I guess is one way to put it. Um, so despite all the differences in how these schemes like kind of operate and work, again, Trinsic is kind of the integrator that makes it all kind of seamless. Yeah, is there anything you would add to that, Michael? I think that's an important part of the platform.
Um, in the reusable ID category, this it looks pretty simple, but it actually is really exciting. Because, well, yeah, so much of our online lives require us to build up profiles with different businesses. And as Trinsic, we've had to be really careful to stay really focused. But if I can humor myself for a minute and just think about like a 5 to 10 year vision, uh, and maybe even sooner, honestly, we have some really exciting stuff that could come out with partnership and uh, exploration with some of you all around like things, basically attributes to add to the identity profile that someone is encrypting and storing, beyond just like name, date of birth, address, and government ID attributes. Things like payment authorizations for banks, and getting to the point where we have truly like an open standard similar to ID cards for payment authorizations, so that you know we don't have to worry about like screen scraping bank account information and bank credentials, and other things like that. And healthcare and all sorts of other use cases open up when you think about reusable IDs. However, our hypothesis is that these government IDs, as well as some of these higher regulation, higher friction, and higher value reusable IDs, are going to be what drive um, the adoption of more broad use cases. um, yeah, that's all I'd say.
Awesome. We probably have time for one more question, so you can feel free to pick any of those that kind of suit you, Michael, and then we'll wrap up.
Uh, okay, I think I can answer all three of them really quickly. Is that all right, Zach?
As long as, yeah, yep.
I've been very talkative though, so I'll be concise. We use many different interoperable standards to build our API. So you are choosing to integrate Trinsic's API, and we as a development team have gone through and vetted and evaluated and implemented all of the like there's literally like a combinatorial explosion of interoperable standards and exchange protocols. And we've gone through and done all that so that you can just use an API. We have pricing available that we can talk through, but basically the fees that are involved with each transaction do vary. And our intention is to give you a low cost price that we've negotiated as a partner. And in general, most of them are like around like the $1.50 range. Those can get a lot cheaper when you get lower assurance and can get a lot more expensive when you get a lot higher assurance. Um, our encrypted wallet is on our servers, um, and it is portable in the sense that we have the insight that like people need to own the keys. The data, it's okay right now. It's a compromise, but it's okay if the data is stored on the cloud and encrypted. So the keys are what's portable in the portable identity. The data is hosted. We use Azure as our cloud computing provider. We could enable region-specific data distribution, and we have started doing that for specific identity verification methods in Europe and in India. It just takes a lot longer for us to develop against that, so we've been slower to build region-specific stores until we really need it. All right, I think I did all the questions. Back to you, Zach.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Did it all, and we finished in time here. So thanks everybody for joining the webinar. We're going to put together a recording and some of the slides to share out with everybody probably tomorrow or Friday. If you would like to move forward with kind of like testing out the integration and seeing how it would work, just send us a note, let us know, and we can set up some more. You can set up some more time with Michael or somebody else on our team, basically to activate your account, get you access to the docs, get you an auth token so you can start testing out some of the verification methods that we offer. So yeah, thanks again everybody for joining, and we'll be in touch. There's a lot of ways to reach us, but yeah, we'll get you some follow-up materials soon, and hope to hear from everybody again. So thanks again. Thanks all.